Welcome, Gemini, to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 20th of November for the Sun or the Ascendant. This week begins with the Sun in the sign of Scorpio, forging a tremendous link to Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. If there's something you've been working on around a business matter, finances, property, anything to do with insurances, something can develop which really gives you a lot of satisfaction. It may be something that you've wanted to work towards for some while, but suddenly you can start to see the evidence of things moving in the right direction. Really pleasing. Now on Wednesday, the Sun hustle bustles into your opposite sign, joined on Friday by Mars joining up with your ruler Mercury. Now Mercury actually, by the end of this week, enters its pre-retrograde shadow. It doesn't go into retrograde until the 13th of December, but it does move out of your sign on the 1st of December, but it starts to slow down. But the interesting and intriguing part of this week is that the 7th house can be where we can forge satisfactory understandings, not necessarily partnerships, although it is very influential in that regard, but it's also where we may encounter people that we need to in some way have a tussle with. And having Mars on the 7th house cusp suggests that you're going to be potentially a lot more assertive in terms of saying what you want, which can be a really good thing, particularly if you are someone who finds that more difficult. If you're someone who has no problem at all standing your ground, you could use Mars in a slightly different way. You could use it to have a little bit more extra desire to connect to other people. It doesn't have to be romantically. It could be just to want to go out and socialise, meet up, see a friend, enjoy yourself. But connecting with others becomes more earnest because of the exciting, mutable but fiery energy that Sagittarius brings. But crucially, the sign of Pisces has two occupants at the moment of critical importance. The first is Saturn since March the 7th, cool, cold, detached, remote, and sometimes very limiting Saturn, but also the dreamy, nebulous Neptune, been there since 2012. And it's going to be Saturn that steps up into the fray first of all, and it bangs into a really abrasive right angle with the Sun immediately on Wednesday. And then when Mars catches up with the Sun on Friday, there's Saturn waiting to impact on Mars too. So when it comes to your personal relationships, I feel that possibly Saturn won't show up so much as long as there's no one kind of taking too much interest in what you're trying to do. So if you have a very protective parent, for example, who tends to monitor your social life, they may have a point of view about someone you're drawn to at the moment that you don't appreciate. But I think where the tensions can come more obviously this week could be in a professional relationship. Because the thing with Saturn in the 10th house, it's reminding you that however much Neptune in the 10th house has seen you idealistic, creative, imaginative, perhaps inspired professionally since 2012 in terms of how you've raised your profile. And if you work in a healing industry or you're a very creative person in terms of the arts, you may have really prospered since then. But Saturn obviously can be more resistant. And because the sign of Sagittarius is very much about expansion, because the ruler Jupiter is all about optimism and going for it and, having an innate sense of self-belief, that cold, mean Saturn could suggest that if you're someone who needs to work within an organisation where there are very clear boundaries, like a corporate structure, your relationships could actually, particularly with a line manager or someone who might work for you, if you're a senior person, seem tense. And the thing with Mars, if Mars picks up that someone is being unfair or unkind, Mars can push back quickly on the 7th house. And then with Mercury squaring up with Neptune, by the end of the week could end up feeling a little bit confused about what it's all about. I think Saturn is saying to you over the next couple of years that there will be certain expectations that people that you encounter have of you. It's possible that maybe past attitudes that you've had are going to be held to scrutiny in a much more thorough way. Saturn obviously is the planet that governs time, but it's also very much about authority and wisdom. So how you connect to others is really going to be highlighted in a very potent way. Now, there are some very famous Geminis in the world who are often in the news, and I think those particular politicians are going to be scrutinised even more this week. But in your personal situation, I feel that you can get a desire to connect, and if you're wanting to go out and have fun and maybe have some kind of romantic interface, I think it can be a good week. Just be aware of the professional and business and work obligations you've got, but towards the end of the week, you could just get into a bit of a confusing exchange when someone doesn't really understand where you're coming from. So do try to understand that whatever you feel is right and fair, because the 7th house is about balance. So if you work in an organisation where they expect an awful lot of you, what organisation doesn't seem to these days, but there's not a lot of praise or acknowledgement coming back, I think the rebel in you could be aroused this week. So with year 2024 absolutely racing towards us, just remember, if you'd like to get your personal horoscope forecast for next year based on your unique birth data, you can take advantage of my special package and get 30% off and get your character analysis, your life roadmap report. But also you can get your year 2024 zodiac forecast for all the signs, your Chinese forecast for all the signs, your Indian forecast, your Vedic forecast for all the signs, absolutely free of charge if you buy that package. Please see beneath this video for more. It's been a real pleasure being with you, and thank you so much for joining me. I'd be honoured if you would like, comment, share or subscribe.